The very next thing that we were going to be talking about is actually some of the people who were investing in Bitcoin. And so we have a few articles here, like one, BlackRock, Fidelity, Bitwise Bitcoin ETF grabbed 205 million from New York IRA. We have the Rothschilds. Come on, the Rothschilds are getting involved. You want to talk about bullish, which I love this, because if you were to take a poll from our Twitter spaces yesterday, or even this audience, who likes the Rothschilds? They're all going to be like, screw those guys.
I
but
like
now
them better now.
Yeah, now they're pumping your bag.
Yeah.
What do you got to tell us, Chris? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's par for the course. Something I often talk about is that when you reach, when price is rallying for a while and then it goes sideways, your basic, retail trader tends to then start questioning about it going higher. They want it to go higher, but because they really don't understand how markets move, and what's going on with it, and how to read that on the chart, all of a sudden, the longer it's going sideways, the more depressive they get, the more they start thinking, even if they want it to go up, they'll start thinking, oh, it's got to go down. It's got to go down because, again, it's the fear of the unknown. And, I've been talking here for the last 2 months about how we're just sideways and how the likeliest thing is that we continue higher, that we printed a spring below the range at the 56,000 level. And so, for me, we're just range bound. We're just, I'm still looking for higher up. There's nothing happening right now that says that we need to go lower. And so when I see things like, Wisconsin coming in, which by the way, guys, I don't know if people really understand how huge that is. That Wisconsin, that's a pension fund. Pension funds usually wait a while. They want to make sure that liquidity is in the ETF and whatnot. And so, pension funds honestly were something I wasn't expecting until maybe later this year, till, maybe like end of Q3, as Gary and I have been talking about for a while now, where we really kind of expect to see a lot more adoption with these Bitcoin ETFs. So Wisconsin coming out and doing a pretty good little bit for it right there at the gate, the first quarter. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. And so that makes me even more bullish coming up toward the end of Q3, Q4 of this year, because, these big institutions, it's like once you're a competitor or once
Chris, could you ever imagine that we would be talking about that in May?
No, I mean, obviously anything can happen, right? I'm a big believer in that, but I honestly, I did not have it on there. I thought for sure it was going to be, again, end of Q3, beginning of Q4 before we really started seeing any pensions. And that was at the earliest. It was more likely going to be, next year coming in, but it's just been insane. And so, you see that, and then we see the other things going on. It just should kind of solidify your ideas on what Bitcoin's potential is, because it's getting serious adoption. It's getting real players in there.
Discussed before, okay, we're going to have a long period of sideways action, right? That's what I've heard from you. How much longer can this period continue if we're seeing institutional adoption like we would have never guessed? I mean, like you're saying, pension fund, huge deal. And what I find fascinating about this stuff is they were investing before we knew, right? Like this happened, we just are able to see it because of the filings that were revealed. How are we not about to break whatever sideways pattern this is? I'm not the trader. I'm not the trader. So are you just waiting and you're seeing these headlines and you're like, oh, well, we're still going to be sideways because that's what the chart says? Or are you seeing these headlines and be like, hey, this sideways action can't last much longer?
Yeah. So for me, with this morning's rally, I mean, really, I want to see this close today's high so far. I want to see kind of like a close there or above on the daily to really kind of solidify it. But locally, it does appear we're headed up into new all-time highs from here as far as the count on the waves goes. And, how quick does that happen? That could take another month before we get a new all-time high. I don't think that we spend the next, the entirety of summer before. So I could see us making a new all-time high, within the next month or so, potentially. So, but for me, really, trading isn't about, immediate time frames. trading for me is more about the levels. It usually when we're trying to figure out, time frames, especially on the more shorter time frame movements, we tend to get it wrong a lot. And so since there's on my end anyway, I'm not very good at that. So I don't really look at the time frames a whole lot. But for me, like I said, we've already been going sideways for 2 months. There's other ways this could play out. This could end up being some large triangle. But the fact is, if this is a wave 4 and wave 2 was that long 7-month period prior with the flat correction, technically speaking, this should be more of a, done now and head up. But we'll see what happens.